Spaceballs 1987 isn't just a parody of Star Wars. It's a wild, chaotic, unpredictable comedy filled with strange decisions, absolute madness behind the scenes, and jokes that went far beyond what audiences expected. But the weirdest part is that almost everything surrounding the movie's production was just as bizarre as the film itself. From melting costumes to studio restrictions, last-minute scenes, and props that nearly injured the cast. Spaceballs earned its cult status through pure weirdness. 1. George Lucas approved the movie but banned all merchandise. Mel Brooks didn't want any trouble with Lucasfilm, so he sent Lucas the script. Lucas said he loved it and even offered his visual effects company for help. But he gave one strict rule: Spaceballs could not create or sell any toys, because the characters resembled Star Wars figures too closely. Brooks agreed instantly. This forced the movie to turn merchandise into a joke by filling the film with fake items like Spaceballs toilet paper, lunchboxes, action figures, and even a flamethrower. Fans always wanted to buy them, but legally they could never exist, too. Lucas said the effects looked almost like real Star Wars shots. Lucas personally told Brooks that some of the spaceship shots looked so good that if the colors were changed, audiences might think they came from Star Wars. Brooks considered this the greatest compliment of his entire career. For a comedy film with a modest budget, matching the look of a blockbuster was a huge surprise. 3. Fake merchandise became one of the movie's biggest legacies since they couldn't sell toys. They exaggerated the merchandising joke. They created dozens of fake products only for scenes in the movie, many of them extremely detailed, even though they were just props. This joke became so iconic that it's now referenced in TV shows, cartoons, and even by fans who make custom Spaceballs the merch decades later. 4. Pizza the Hutt's costume actually melted on screen. The Pizza the Hutt suit looked funny on screen, but was dangerous in real life. The material used to create the cheese melted under the bright studio lights. The actor was sweating heavily and could barely move inside the thick costume. Some of the cheese actually dripped onto the actor's legs, and scenes had to be filmed very quickly before the entire suit collapsed. 5. Barfs. Its mechanical tail caused non-stop problems. John Candy wore a tail that was meant to wag through remote control. Instead, it kept breaking, locking, or flicking at random moments. Because of these malfunctions, a puppeteer often had to crouch behind Candy to move the tail by hand. Sometimes the tail whipped other actors or got tangled in props. Ruining takes. 6. Dark helmets. Gigantic helmet tortured Rick Moranis. The famous oversized helmet was funny on screen, but painful in reality. It was heavy, limited Moranis's vision, and made him sweat so much that the inside padding had to be replaced regularly. In some scenes, the helmet tilted forward and nearly covered his entire face, causing multiple retakes because he couldn't see his marks on the floor. 7. Yogurt's giant gold statue collapsed and destroyed part of the set. The huge statue of Yogurt was made of foam and lightweight materials, but its size made it unstable. During a break, the statue fell over and smashed into the floor, breaking pieces of the set. The crew worked overnight reconstructing it because the following day's shoot required the statue in the background. 8. The combing the desert gag used real full-size industrial combs. The props team didn't build plastic joke props. They made actual giant metal combs. Each comb was extremely heavy and required several people to drag it across the sand. The shot lasts only seconds in the final film, but the amount of work behind it was huge. The cast joked that the combs weighed more than most of the actors. 9. The stunt-double reveal scene was written at the very last second the idea came. During a late-night brainstorming session, when the writers joked about how silly it would be to show stunt doubles mid-scene. The next morning, they rushed to find people who vaguely resembled the main actors. Some didn't resemble them at all, which made the joke even better. It was filmed quickly and became one of the most quoted scenes in the movie. 10. Mega-Maids. Transformation almost got removed to save money. The studio didn't want to spend so much money on a big effects sequence for a parody movie. Mel Brooks insisted that the transformation into Mega-Maid was essential because it made the villain's ship ridiculously over the top. After long arguments, the scene stayed, and it became one of the film's most memorable visual gags. 11. Joan Rivers finished all her voice work in a single fast session. Joan Rivers voiced Matrix with perfect comedic timing. She was so efficient that she recorded all her lines in one day, surprising the sound team, who expected a full week. Her delivery was so clean that the animators said it was almost too easy to sync her voice. 12. Special effects. Gear was borrowed from other sci-fi films to save money to keep costs low. The film reused models, cameras, and motion control equipment from several other major sci-fi productions of the 80s. Some of the same machines used in Blade Runner and Star Trek were used to shoot shots for Spaceballs. The production team mixed comedy with actual high-quality effects. Technology. 13. Lone Stars Winnebago was a full-size interior set that barely fit on the stage instead of using miniatures. The team built a real Winnebago interior that took up most of the soundstage. Moving cameras inside the cramped space was difficult, and sometimes they had to remove entire walls just to fit equipment. Crew members said filming inside the Winnebago was like shooting inside a metal box. 14. Mel Brooks didn't want to act in the movie at first. He originally only planned to direct. But the studio insisted he appear on camera because audiences loved seeing him in his own films. Brooks eventually agreed and played both President Scroob and Yogurt. Switching back and forth between characters in the same week made production hectic. But Brooks later said it was worth it. 15. Even the VHS release had extra jokes hidden on the packaging. The home video release included a fake warning label and funny lines printed on the box, turning the VHS itself into part of the comedy. Few films in the 80s treated their packaging like an extension of the humor, but Spaceballs used every opportunity to add another joke. No. Spaceballs wasn't just made with humor, it was built on chaos, improvisation, accidents, and clever problem-solving. Every strange moment behind the scenes added to the film's wild personality. That's why Spaceballs remains one of the most beloved and rewatchable parody films of all time, packed with weird stories that are just as funny as the movie itself.